Okay, so we've had an eventful week.
It has been.
We opened up the arena.
That was very exciting. It's a good first day.
Really good first day. We broke our 100-member mark, which is exciting.
That was our launch goal. It was very exciting to see people come in and have a great first conversation and talk about how to identify your worldview, how to test it, how to see if it's valid and if it's actually reflective of your life. So there's a lot of really fun things I think we're going to be talking about.
It was good. It was good. What else have you been up to? How you doing?
Man, it's been crazy busy.
Crazy busy.
I mean, we think about the launch of the arena. I have the launch of Mindshift coming out in October. We have a live event at the arena in Los Angeles, October 6th and 7th. And so there's just a lot happening, not to mention everything that's happening at Mosaic, which is pretty incredible.
So good. And then are you traveling anytime soon?
Not right now. Finally.
You finally here for a little bit?
I'm grounded, yeah.
But your birthday's coming up.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And also Messi is coming to LA.
Yeah, let's not skip over your birthday. I'm very excited. Can I tell people when your birthday is?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, August 28th.
Yep, August 28th. I turned 65 years old.
It's in a few days.
Yeah.
Very exciting. I'm excited to celebrate you.
Oh, thank you.
It'll be very fun. Do you ever set goals for your birthday years?
I don't know if I set goals as much as I have aspirations, things that I like to move toward, things that I want to create or become and accomplish. Yeah. And so I don't set a goal like I want to have this many things or to have accomplish this or, I'm not setting goals like I want to run a 4-minute mile, okay. I want to run a 26-mile marathon. But I might set goals more like I want to move toward being in the best health of my life, or I want to, be flexible and agile enough to be able to play basketball again. And so yeah. I think my goals tend to be more process-oriented goals.
Okay.
Which I think make them more tangible for me, because then it's about what I'm doing every day rather than just some goal out there. And then on that day, if I hit it, I'm excited. And if I don't hit it, I'm disappointed.
Would you consider yourself a person who's very disciplined?
I think on the spectrum of the world, I'm probably a fairly disciplined person.
You versus 8 billion.
Yeah. So if I use an $8 billion spectrum, I don't think I'm as disciplined as I could be, or maybe even should be. I think I'm disciplined enough to be highly effective at the things I do.
Okay. And what does that mean?
Yesterday I was doing some research on the word self-efficacy.
Okay.
And the reason is because I heard someone using it in a talk, and I thought, that's not what it means.
I think that was probably me talking.
It wasn't you, by the way. But they were saying it, and they repeated it. And I kept thinking, you're repeating a definition that's inaccurate about self-efficacy. And since it's something I've studied for probably 20 years, I thought, well, maybe I forgot what it means. And so I go back and do my research, and self-efficacy is really described as sociologically or psychologically as the ability to establish the behavioral patterns that are necessary to accomplish what you want to accomplish or become who you want to become.
Okay.
And one of the reasons I'm aware of it is that when they were testing on self-efficacy, my self-efficacy is extremely high, and which is different than self-confidence, and it's different than self-assurance. I'm not always the most self-confident person. I'm not always the most self-assured person, but I have really high self-efficacy.
Okay.
I am able to establish the behavioral patterns I need to become the person I desire to become or to accomplish the things I want to accomplish.
Okay.
And I think a lot of people lack that. They lack that ability to decide today, I'm going to do this to become this.
Okay.
And I think it's one of the keys to my success. So I consider that to be the discipline of my life.
Interesting. Where do you feel like you developed that or picked that up?
Maybe just one disappointment with my own ability to stay the same at times, and going, I can't stay like this, and I refuse to live in status quo. So I do have a strong drive to always be growing and advancing and developing. And I'm not sure where it came from. I'm sure some of it was said into me from like my grandfather, who I think of, who created a lot of my internal structures, in terms of the way he shaped me. And I also just watched people, and I felt like there were some people who gave up and would fail and stay in that failure, and other people who would fail and refuse to stay in that failure. And so I realized, what makes people different isn't whether they fail or not. It's whether they stay in that or not. And some people just have the tenacity, the grit to get up and just keep going. And I just decided that would be my superpower. You don't have a lot of control of your talent. You don't really have a lot of control over your IQ. You don't have a lot of control over things that are genetically passed on to you. Mm-hmm. And so one of the few things you can actually control are the behaviors you choose that actually help you move toward the person you want to become. Yeah. So I just like having maybe that sense of control in my life, that these are the behaviors I choose.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. We have a new book coming out, which is very exciting. It comes out in October.
Yeah, I'm super excited because yesterday I went in and did the audiobook.
Oh yeah, how was that?
It's always intensely focused. You have to really focus. And some of it is, the publisher sets aside 3 days to read the book. So you have a studio rented for 3 days. And I pretty much have determined that, I'm going to read the book in 1 day. So I went in yesterday and I read the entire book in 1 day.
Wait, so you had it rented for 3 days?
Yeah.
So yesterday didn't have to be yesterday? Because we had so many things yesterday and it didn't have to be like that?
Again, it's like self-efficacy. It's establishing the behavioral patterns that help you accomplish the things you want to accomplish.
Yesterday was dumb. Yesterday was dumb, and we know that.
No, but I canceled the other 2 days, so I had to do it. I canceled them to make sure I had the structures that reinforced the fact that I was going to finish in 1 day.
Somehow we double booked you on Monday, and we had an arena session at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time.
So I left the audiobook recording, did the arena for an hour for our launch event, and then also we took a break to go get some lunch and get some sushi, and then I still finished the whole book by 4:00.
Okay.
And a lot of it is just staying intentional, staying super focused, because you have to be able to articulate every word, enunciate really, clearly, and read with passion and interest and dynamic. There's a lot involved in the process.
Yeah.
And just focusing on reading is a lot harder than people would think at times. But I want the book to be in my voice. I want it to be with my texture. I want to be able to bring the emotional weight to the sentences that I feel like they deserve.
Yeah, I'm not really a big fan of audiobooks. Well, that are read by someone who's not the author.
Yeah, I just don't have time for books that aren't read by the author.
I don't know, but then I've listened to some by the author, and I'm just like, it makes me want to honestly never listen to an audiobook ever again sometimes. I know exactly the one that it was, and I will not say, because I think we have a friend of a friend, but some guys just shouldn't read because they can't. or just shouldn't read the book because their voice isn't appealing or interesting.
But you can also tell, and maybe this is me as a writer, if a person wrote the book.
I think this person writes their books.
Right, but you can tell by the way they read the book if they wrote the book.
Yeah, there's a connection to the book.
There's a definite organic connection in that, and I write every word of my books, and I want to read every word of my books. And so I'm excited. That's coming out the same day that the hardback comes out on October 3rd.
That's pretty exciting.
And when I was reading the book, this is really cool. The guy who was doing the audio recording, he came up to me afterwards. He said, "Hey, do you have a minute?" And I said, "Sure." And he said, "I sold my studio. I owned the studio, and I sold it to a friend of mine." And he called me up and asked me to come back and do this audiobook because he was super busy. And I'm working in the political world now. He's running for state assembly. And I didn't want to come back and do this. He goes, "The one thing I hated working as a producer was I hated audiobooks. They're just tedious and mundane and days of brutal, focus." And so he said, complaining all weekend long about having to come in and do this. He goes, "And as I listened to your audiobook, it was exactly what I needed in my life right now. These are exactly the mental shifts I needed to make.
Oh no, this might be a bad audiobook because he was paying too much attention to the content.
And he said, I'm so like grateful I got to do this. And
That's so
and he
nice.
gave me his card and told me what he was doing in government. And after each chapter, him and the director who was online, they were like, oh wow, that chapter, that was really significant. That was really beautiful. That was really important. And I could feel that. I didn't know if they were listening to help me edit or where they were listening to process the information.
Yeah, that's cool.
But it was really beautiful. And so I felt like I had 3 people in the room, including myself, who were deeply connected to the content. So I think the audiobook is going to be really good.
Yeah.
But it's really encouraging when you have someone who doesn't know you. They don't want to be there. They're having to do the job of producing the audiobook, and they come up afterwards and grab you and tell you this book has really had a huge impact on me.
Yeah, it's cool.
Thank you so much. So I'm really excited.
They're
about
literally not there for the content. The content is
not at all.
done. They're there because they're there to like make sure you articulate or get every word right and make sure that sentence sounds like a sentence and the question sounds like a question. They're really there for continuity. So when they're focusing on the content, one, that makes me a little nervous because I don't think you've ever had a guy that's like, because it is a tedious, it's kind of the most, it is, I've sat in them with you before, and those engineers are like scanning over each like, voice audio section and having to like marker where you might breathe too heavy and it picks up on the mic, or like to make their lives easier to go back and like go through and take the edits out. It's a really tedious process, but that's really cool that he actually responded in the way that he did. That was really exciting.
Yeah. But one of the principles there too is, as we're going through, the director sometimes has to stop you. You're already on the next sentence and they're stopping you about the last sentence. Because maybe you said this instead of the, or and instead of, whatever. And, or you might have said institute instead of institutes. And you've got the plural and you're on a roll and you're focused. And she said, I hope it's okay if I can stop you, even maybe on emphasis. Like if I feel like you've maybe put the emphasis on the wrong word. And I felt irritated for a second. I said, yeah. And then I read another line. I said, let me stop for a minute. I welcome you to interrupt me anytime you think I could do something better.
Oh, that's a big moment for you.
No, and she goes, thank you so much. And because I wanted her to feel absolutely free to help me be great.
Right.
And my initial reaction was that human reaction of get out of my way, just let me do my thing. And immediately I had what I feel like is the more essential me, the core me going, that's not who you are. And I just stopped and I said in a very kind way, I really want to invite you to interrupt me every time I need to be interrupted.
You know what? That's actually a really great segue because I think, I think there's a really profound question there. Who do you let critique you? Who do you let give you feedback? Who's in your corner that's, shouting you down and letting you know what you need to do? I always find it really interesting. I find boxing coaches obnoxious but necessary. I'm like, why do you want a guy who's just screaming at you the whole time, being like, don't get hit, don't get hit. You're like, my man, I chose this life. I'm gonna get hit. I'm in the ring. It's gonna happen. But it is so necessary because in the heat of the moment, when crisis happens, when the stakes are high, you need someone who's in your head going, okay, I actually believe in you. Or, hey, you need to like watch your left or watch your right and dodge this and remember to duck and remember to not be a punching bag. But there was a moment I went and saw Drake last night, which I can't say I'm the biggest Drake fan, though it's just without a doubt he has just hundreds. I mean, he has 100 hits. Like he is just insanely talented and gifted in his own right. But at one point, the person I was with looks over at me and goes, what do you think? And I said, I think he should fire his entire team. And I didn't tell you I said that. I said, I think he should fire his entire team. And she goes, what do you mean? And I was like, I think this is like terrible. And not just like that his songs aren't great or that it's not. I was like, there's just something like not right in the vibe, in like the environment, in the ecosystem, in the energy. Like there's just something off. Like it's the flow. Maybe it was like walking down this walking into crypto with LeBron and his son, who, you know, he had a heart attack, which it was good to see him healthy, but it just felt like an accumulation of stuff I don't care about. And I felt like him as the artist and the performer and the entertainer, he needs to make me care, you know? And it was one of those things where it was like, and I kept thinking, I was like, okay, who is giving this guy feedback? Who's going like, that's a good one or that's not a good one? And you could almost tell, and I'm not saying he's insecure, but you could almost tell he was saying certain comments that were like feelers of like, you know, well, if you guys don't make more noise, I don't know, you know, I'm gonna play this song or I'm gonna play this song. And it was kind of interesting. And I don't know if he was trying to just gauge the audience and what the vibe was, or he was just, maybe he could tell it wasn't his best show that he's ever done.
That's funny because at an event I was just at, you know, hundreds of thousands of registrants, one of the other speakers asked me for some help. And I said, don't get out there and beg the audience to love you.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And they looked at me kind of like, what are you saying? You know?
Yeah.
And I said, let me give you a couple of phrases that you use.
Yeah.
And that is really your way of saying to the audience, well, you love me.
Yeah. And
I think that's what he was doing.
And no doubt, like when he walks out, the whole place went
and they do love him.
And you know what, one of the most impressive parts of that show was, but I do want to dive into like who gives you feedback and why that's important. But one of the best parts of his show was he was like, you know, sometimes when I'm up at night, I do think about the fact that there are men and women who have jobs, who go to work to pay for bills, and then with some of the extra money that they have, choose to spend it on coming to see me. And he was just like, I just want to thank you. And that was a really beautiful moment of the show. I was like, okay, this guy he's not unaware. Right. He's aware. He might actually be too aware. And that's why he was kind of making certain moves within the show.
You never get so famous, you don't need love.
Right.
In fact, a lot of people pursue fame because they need so much love. So much affirmation, and they need so much adoration. And so that insecurity, I know it sounds crazy to say, you cannot be Drake and be insecure. And I would say, I don't know if you can become Drake without being insecure.
Right. Okay.
I think you have to have insecurity to become Drake.
Yeah, and that's where, you know, so how do you manage insecurity and confidence? Because I would also say he's incredibly confident.
Right, and those are two of the characteristics of highly successful people. They're highly confident in a sense of calling or destiny or uniqueness, and they're also incredibly insecure and fearful they're not enough. And then you put those two things together, it creates this incredible chemistry that oftentimes results in an extraordinary expression of life.
Do you feel that people use the term insecurity as something to shame the other person by?
Yeah, I think when you say to someone, you're so insecure, it's not a compliment.
I find it interesting because I've never thought about this until you brought it up just now, because I'm like, oh, when someone says you're so insecure, it's like, what do you mean? We literally all are. And if you're not, you know, it's good to be secure in yourself. And I think everyone has those moments of being secure in themselves, you know. I hope so. Hope there's a space where everyone feels like so comfortable, like, oh, I feel so secure here. But the reality is, being insecure is human, is a part of the human journey. But going back to it, like, I do think he needs to fire his team. And I
so this isn't Drake hate. This is saying that you don't feel like his team matched his excellence or his quality or what he deserves.
Going back to the opening statement that we cut out, like, I have been super sick. I don't know if I got COVID, if I have had the flu.
I wasn't going to bring it up. You didn't want to talk about it.
I got super sick this week. I'm still sick, and it's been a week, and like I spent 5 days in bed during the launch, and it's just been miserable. But now I'm feeling well enough to be out. And so I literally was like pretty much, you know, went last night. I was excited. I was like, I decided to get out. I was excited to go to dinner before. And I was excited to go with the person I went with. And I think I'm thinking of Drake via him and Kanye playing at the Coliseum during COVID. And they did this epic show that was designed by, you know, Mike Dean and James Turrell, and like just this really with incredible visuals, and it's in you know, LA's Coliseum. It was obviously designed by Kanye's team and the people that Kanye kind of empowers. And to see Drake in that kind of context was like, man, this is the vibe. Like, this is really it. Like, and so maybe it was just kind of this thing of going, maybe expecting him or wanting him to be something he's naturally not, but also just going like, you're like one of the top artists in the world. I feel like you're here and you're phoning it in, but you could have been here and you could be iconic and almost mythological to some degree. And then it's like, well, and I just reminded myself, he's got 20,000 people in a room and he's done it 5 nights in a row. 1, he's got to be a little bored, but 2, he did it and you didn't. So just shut your mouth and just enjoy the show. And so and then I was able to enjoy it a bit more, but I look at everything very critical. So maybe it's my inability to enjoy that I need to fix, not him firing his team.
The moment you step on any platform, you create the space for love and hate. And there are going to be people who love you and people who hate you, people who love what you did, people who hate what you did, and people who will reinterpret your negative behavior in a positive way, and people who will reinterpret your positive behavior in a negative way. That's just the reality of that world.
Of course.
Which leads me to a little
like I would
right
never,
turn.
But I would never go online and be like, yo, Drake was whack. I would just be like, I would never say anything. I just wouldn't post. And that's where we left the show. It was like, there was nothing to pull the phone out for.
Yeah, it's funny because this morning I saw that, our friend, Jerry Lorenzo came up with a new shoe.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, it's a beautiful white, it says something like California Classic or something like that.
Okay.
And I'm looking at it, and someone posts a negative statement. And I immediately had the thought, how do you have so much time that you have time to post a negative statement about a pair of shoes?
Yeah. Like it affected you so much you had to post about a shoe.
I know.
About an inanimate object.
Yeah. I mean, get mad at poverty,
Right.
or get mad at, injustice or people who don't have homes, or find something meaningful to focus your anger on and go do something about that. And I just think it's really, really funny, and how people use their energy to attack people, and rather than to go attack a problem.
I know, it's interesting, and I fall into the negative space sometimes. I don't really ever comment on things publicly. I'm just annoying to the people in my own world, just like commenting privately about everything, And maybe it is because I'm insecure and I need to go and try for something and go harder and try to be something and try to become more. I don't know. But also I maybe, I don't know. I don't know. But I don't feel any types of, like if Jerry, like I'm sure Jerry's put out stuff I don't enjoy or like naturally like as much as other things, but I would never be like, well, I don't like that. It'd be like, man, he made something.
Yeah.
And then he put it out there.
Yeah.
And then people, whether everyone bought it, people bought it. People buy into it. And I'm like, that's something to be proud of, right? Like just because it isn't maybe the shoe for me or the music for me, and I was on a group text with some friends and they're like, how was it? And I said, if you were like a true Drake fan, you had the best night of your life. But if you're like going, I enjoy his music, I needed him to show up, I don't know if that was the one, but there's things to learn, like no matter what. One, I think it was like, for me, it felt phoned in, and I've never watched you phone in a thing in your life, and and I've never watched Jerry phone in a thing in his life. Like there's guys in my life where I'm like, oh wow, I've watched him be sick as a dog and still show up and play like Michael Jordan, and that really does mean a lot to me, and the pursuit of greatness and the pursuit of excellence. But anyways,
but it's just a great reminder. Even the best in the world have bad days.
Yes.
Let's say it wasn't his best concert. Let's say that he was tired or he was a little disconnected from it. And it's just a great reminder that even the best in the world don't always hit the mark of being their best. And the difference is that he'll get up and do it again tomorrow.
Like literally, I think he's doing it again tonight.
Yeah. And that's the difference, is that people who achieve greatness don't stop because they didn't hit their best mark. They
Yeah,
just keep at it. They just keep building, just keep growing, just keep attacking, their own limits.
Yeah.
And, I was watching the documentary, I think it's called Quarterbacks.
On Netflix?
Yeah. And they had a section on Patrick Mahomes, and he has a friend, I think, from elementary school who's his trainer.
No way.
He's been with him all of his life, which
That's
is
crazy.
pretty incredible.
Is the show good?
I like it. I think Mariah, who doesn't like sports,
She
is the
told me
one
to
who
watch
told me about it.
Oh, that's funny.
She goes, "You'll really like the show."
That's funny.
So I went and watched it, and I was watching this section where Mahomes' trainer was moving his body in the most awkward positions. I mean, just really uncomfortably, even painfully contorted. And he was explaining that one of the things he does in training Patrick, which is different than other quarterbacks, is that he forces him into uncomfortable positions, which is why when he's on the field, he can contort and throw the ball backwards or still throw a touchdown while he's being grabbed by three people, being twisted like a pretzel. It's because the trainer moves him into uncomfortable positions so that he can be prepared for when he's in those positions. Because he said, in the sport, you're going to be hit and forced into positions you don't want to be in. And what really hit me was that what separates greatness is comfortable in uncomfortable positions.
Wow.
Because most of us can execute at a high level when the conditions are perfect.
Yeah.
When the conditions are right for us. And it's when you're in an uncomfortable position that's when you begin to discover the separation point. I still remember years ago when we were in Kuala Lumpur and you were still, trying to get your feet for your communication chops. And
oh, good Lord.
And
we're going there to that dark day.
We were in that building in KL, and it was pouring. I mean, just monsoon type rain on a aluminum,
like a tin roof.
Yeah. And it echoed in there. I mean, it was so loud.
Because it's a massive room.
Yeah.
But with super high vaulted ceilings, but it's like a hangar.
Right, but no one sat down and thought through,
what if?
We're in Malaysia, it rains all the time. And if we have a tin or aluminum roof that multiplies, echoes sound, this would probably not be the best strategy for the communicator, for the speaker.
It was without a doubt, with the moment I started. Like I had just gotten up, and also to make it worse, we actually should use this in the arena as like a case study of like what to do. And I bet we could get the video.
We should.
I honestly, I don't think I could take it. Like emotionally, I don't actually think I could take the video.
When it rains on your parade.
Like one, I'm dressed horrifically. Like I had no style. I was dressed terribly. And then I've also realized that my outfit really does matter. Like if I don't dress feel comfortable, I really have like a bad afternoon or a bad day, which is so insecure. But then the moment like I finish praying, the rain starts so loud that it was like the building was shaking to the point, and I was like, why? I think I looked up and was like, why, God? And the room laughed, but I was like serious. And then it was just 20, 30 minutes of just brutal me speaking terribly.
Well, you had to struggle through that moment because you were placed in a horrifically uncomfortable situation as a communicator. And yet, those are the kinds of situations that develop the muscles for whatever craft you want to develop the best. And I was just thinking about it 2 weeks ago, we were in Mexico City for the 5th anniversary of Mosaic Mexico. And I'm speaking with a handheld microphone in Spanish. And, so it's already challenging enough for me to speak in Spanish. And halfway through my talk, the production guy walks from the back, walks up while I'm speaking, and starts handing me a different microphone. And I'm trying to figure out what's going on. I realize, okay, this microphone must not be working. I can't tell it's not working. It seemed like it was working. So when I switched out microphones, now the whole room is just focused on this. I put the new microphone to my mouth and I said, this microphone only speaks in English.
And the room gets it because
they all
so many
laughing.
people speak
They're all
English.
bilingual. And the whole room starts laughing. And later I was thinking about this principle that if you want to elevate, you have to become comfortable in uncomfortable positions. So this was an incredibly uncomfortable position.
Right.
It would have been so easy for me just to get angry or frustrated or just to focus on being interrupted or whatever. But instead I just took it and turned it into a moment for comedy.
Mm-hmm.
And the moment I said that, the room was with me. They totally forgot about this interruption. And then we moved on.
That's so interesting, like using obstacles to win the room.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
Because that's really what people will remember. That's what they watch the most. You think they're listening to the elegance or the precision of your message. What they want to know is who you are in crisis. What they want to know is, what are you like when you're uncomfortable?
I have a funny moment, but I can't talk about it. There, like last night, there's a section of Drake's show, and that a woman had thrown a pair of her, a bra on stage, and I think he thought he was gonna turn this into this suave moment, and he grabs it and goes, "Oh Lord, it's so sweaty, like you out here working." And I don't even think he's naturally funny, he's actually naturally funny, but okay. I don't even think he meant to say that. I think it was just such a flub, and he was like, "Oh, you out here putting work out here, you might need this bag."
This would be an uncomfortable moment.
It would be uncomfortable, and it was so not sexy. It was really uncomfortable and funny. And I remember sitting there being like, "Oh wow, he actually won me a little bit in that moment," which is his wit. So,
right. Because when a person becomes comfortable in an uncomfortable moment, they've elevated. Something special has happened.
Yeah.
And I look back and I realize that has really been a trademark of what was a necessary skill in building Mosaic here in Los Angeles.
Well, wait, hold on. What would you have done if it was raining on you?
In Kuala Lumpur?
Yeah, what could I? Because I think I was very much in the beginning of my journey in that situation.
Yeah.
But what would you have done?
I don't know. I was proud of you.
I suffered through the hard way. But what would you what could you have said in that moment to really win?
I probably would have started like this.
Okay.
Because it would have been raining so hard that I would have started. I might have sat on the floor and just started whispering.
Okay.
I go, "Can you hear me?"
Yeah.
And I would have forced the room to lean in and lean in and lean in, so that the softness of my voice would then begin to create a contrast as I spoke louder, and it would begin to focus out the rain.
Yep. And that's why I am only your son.
No, you're just asking me. I'm thinking that
no. That's a brilliant moment. Honestly, that's a brilliant moment. And I think that there's, you either swim or you drown in those moments, or you sink or swim in those moments, right? And I definitely sunk. And I was ashamed, and I was angry, and I was mad. I went to the bathroom, and I remember looking at myself being like, "Well, you suck. And you're just not cool at all, or interesting, or impactful." But now you have to go back out and hang out with everyone for another week. But they flew you out here to have a moment.
And he just invited you back to go back and speak.
Yeah, he did. And now I am going to practice.
During rainy season.
I'm going to practice during rainy season. And I literally, the first thing I asked him was, "Is it raining? Is in the tropical monsoon season?"
But just think about the application of this in everyday experiences. And I don't know if you can have a sustainable marriage if you're not comfortable in uncomfortable positions. And because whether you like it or not, no matter how much you love each other, you put each other in uncomfortable positions. You create emotional tension. You have expectations that are unrealistic. You treat your spouse the way you wouldn't treat any other human being.
Yeah.
You're over there, Austin, and you're shaking your head.
Yeah, he's over there. He's over there.
You got married when you were 12, so you've been married a long time.
Yeah.
And I think there are laws against you being married so young. But
not where he's from. That's
right, from the deep South.
Yeah.
And
he's a Midwest boy.
All right.
But they kind of, you're from the part where it's pretty Southern. Yeah.
And if you don't learn how to be comfortable in uncomfortable positions in your marriage, you're going to have constant conflict. You're not going to survive it. You have to learn.
How do you get married? Can I just? How do you get there?
You gotta learn how to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations in the dating world.
I'm at the point now where I'm 35, and now I'm just like I must just do everything wrong. But let's not go there. I think you were talking about
the harder thing is that as you are single longer, the harder thing when you are single and you're 35 is that you're comfortable with singleness. And so then you date someone and they disrupt your natural patterns and you're like, wait a minute, they're disrupting my life. And so the challenge then becomes, how do I find someone that doesn't disrupt my life? And the answer is you don't. You find someone whose disruptions you value and appreciate. And because they're going to put you in uncomfortable situations, you know, and you have to learn how to be comfortable with them. It's the same way in leading an organization. You cannot lead if you're only excellent when the environment is perfect. And I've actually heard people talk about that. They blame the environment on their failure. They blame the culture. They blame the company. They blame their boss. They blame the world because they're not achieving at the highest level. And then I think, wait a minute, what world are you from? Life, you know, people go, well, I just get so many interruptions. And I know there was a time when I would work with you and you just hated interruptions. It would just frustrate you. And, you know, or life has a crisis or life has a bad turn. And we think, why do so many bad things happen to us? Or why do we have so many disruptions? Or why do I have so much chaos? And the answer is, because that's actually life.
That's real life. Yeah.
That's real life is the crisis and the interruptions and the disappointments and the conflicts and the crisis. That's just life. It's learning how to excel in that that allows you to elevate. Yeah. And so I would, you know, this is not a paid advertisement, but I would encourage everyone to watch that episode of Quarterback and to watch the process that Mahomes goes through, because you watch him on the field and you go, how does he do that? And then I'm watching him practice and I go, oh, I don't think any other quarterback has ever trained like that.
Interesting.
Which makes sense why no other quarterback has ever been able to throw like that. But now that training is out there, I guarantee you a whole generation of quarterbacks are going to get trained the way Mahomes is getting trained. Yeah. And the skills that are extraordinary that he's demonstrating now are going to become more expected and normative, because more athletes will become comfortable in uncomfortable positions.
That's really interesting. That's like groundbreaking, really, on the way that people train. That's so fascinating. I love that, and I love that idea of being put in uncomfortable positions and then training there. And I'm honestly, now I'm trying to figure out, 'cause we have 2 minutes before you got to run onto a call, so I want to wrap up this.
Yeah, but think about it in thinking. Most people only talk to people who agree with them because they're not comfortable in uncomfortable positions.
No, not at all.
The reason most people who believe in God are not very effective at talking to people who don't believe in God is they're actually not comfortable in uncomfortable positions.
Yeah, this may be a controversial example, and I really don't mean it in the controversial sense, but a clip that I'd never seen popped up, and it was Heath Ledger in a press conference for Brokeback Mountain, which, whether you like the movie or not, or if you've seen the movie or not, it was really controversial when that movie came out. And this reporter asked just a really rude question, like, why would you make such a disgusting movie? And I'm pretty sure he used the word disgusting. And Heath handled it so well. And I thought it was so interesting because he goes, no matter what you believe, like, you don't have to watch the movie. Like, if you don't agree with, you know, this being a love story of two cowboy men, what the whole thing, he goes, you just don't have to watch the movie, but you don't have to come in here and be rude and put everyone else in a really uncomfortable position. And it was such an interesting way of handling conflict, uncomfortable conflict. That's what the focus on here, not the movie, not the comment, but just like the way to manage uncomfortable conflict in a room full of reporters who obviously in that moment he's realizing, are not for me. I didn't make the obvious choice, the comfortable choice to keep doing A Knight's Tale or to keep doing, you know, the handsome heartthrob movies that he was making and he was so known for and so good at. But to kind of handle things in that way, I was like, oh, what do you think was inside of him? Because I've watched you have similar moments where you've been able to handle wildly aggressive people come at you in a moment and take care of it calmly. What do you think it is? What are you comprised of It's that third thing, right? It's that low impulse control.
It's high impulse control.
High impulse control. The low impulse control is what I have.
And yes, it is. We talked about, we began with the characteristics of highly successful people, that there's this combination of high confidence and high insecurity. But the third thing that people talk about is that it's high impulse control. And from a very young age, I recognized that if I reacted to people, they had power over me. Mm. And if I did not react, people were powerless over me. Mm. And I don't like feeling powerless. Mm. And I don't like when bullies or people who want to oppress you or people who want to control you or dominate you control you because you are now simply reacting. Mm. And so I decided at a very young age that I would have so much mastery of my inner world that you could not provoke an emotion out of me that I did not choose. And I've lived my life like that pretty significantly. And I actually think that people recognize that those who have control over their emotions are actually more powerful.
I've watched that in you, and I've watched that in key people that are very successful, highly disciplined people who just don't, it's not that they don't see the issues in specific moments, mm-hmm. they just make them very small. Mm-hmm. And not even by disrespecting them, by just going, you're making this a 10, but for me, I'm feeling a 3, mm-hmm. And in most things I might feel a 1, and it doesn't mean they don't have massive anxiety, because I've also watched their anxiety levels and they're sure. pretty high. Yeah. There's moments where you've had really high anxiety. So they internalize it, but their ability to process in the moment is mm-hmm. almost second to none. There is no response. It's just, okay, like, let me process this.
Yeah. Frankly, I don't think I could have given my life and created Mosaic if I didn't learn how to handle uncomfortable situations. I mean, in 30 years, I haven't had a year without criticism. I haven't had a month without criticism. I don't think I've had a week without criticism. And if I've had a day without criticism, that's been a really good day. And it's usually simply because I'm not listening to it. For 30 years, I've had nothing but critique and criticism and questioning, and people questioning your faith, whether you actually really believe in Jesus. People questioning your integrity. People questioning your motive, and those are the people on our side.
Oh, it's interesting.
It's not even like the atheists out there attacking me, or the agnostic attacking me, or the Buddhist, or the Muslim. I mean, I could probably put all the attacks from people who don't believe in God and don't believe in Jesus, in a little,
a little jar,
a little tiny. It's almost non-existent.
It's very few and far between. If anything, they're often the people who are most supportive, because they come and they go, "Oh wow, this is really different."
Yeah. It's the people who you think would have your back or would be supportive of me on your team. And the reason I bring that up is because I do think that giving my life to Mosaic has been one of the most significant things I've ever done. It's probably one of the most meaningful things I've ever done, and has done the most good in the world of almost anything I've ever given myself to. And yet it's taken the most amount of pain and criticism and resilience. And I think that there's a direct relationship to that. I know no matter what I do, there'll be critique. I know no matter what I create, there'll be antagonism. Mm-hmm. Like, I always have to take a deep breath. I mean, even before we started the arena, I knew, like, the moment I start the arena, it's going to create another space for people to attack.
We made everyone so mad with McManus Gallery that they don't even try anymore, which is good.
Oh, but here's the thing: is like, you went to the Drake concert, and Drake did not live up to your expectations.
No.
Yeah. It's just real. Real life is, if you put yourself out there, you're going to disappoint people. Mm-hmm. If you put yourself out there, you will not meet everyone's expectations.
No.
And so what are you going to do? Are you going to shrink back and do less? Are you going to shrink back so that no one criticizes you? Are you going to shrink back so that no one critiques you?
No.
And you have to be invisible.
Yeah.
And I think that it takes courage to choose visibility. It takes courage to be seen. It takes courage to stand on the platform. And so even going back full circle, even if it wasn't Drake's best concert, I applaud him for putting himself out there, for giving people the opportunity to either celebrate or critique, but he's made himself a force of nature. And I celebrate people who have the courage to create, and recognizing that when you create the environment for people to love or hate you.
And that's a huge thing too, right? Like, yeah.
And you have to become comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Because that's the uncomfortable position.
Right. No, I think it's so good. Okay. I love it. I love this conversation. It's good.
It's good. No,
I'm excited to just keep doing, honestly, I'm excited to keep doing this podcast. I'm excited to keep getting, now that I'm back, booking some guests. We've had thing after thing happen between the three of us.
We got a list of people who have already said yes to come on.
I know. I'm very excited. I just got to be not sick. And you got to be in town, and we got to make this happen. I'm very, very excited. I think Mind Shift has been, it's been good for me just to have this. It felt like so much shifted from Battle Ready to Mind Shift. But for me, it felt like a natural progression, and I'm really grateful that we've created an environment, an ecosystem. And when we get critiqued, we go on the Google reviews or the Apple Music and the Spotify, and it's 99.9% positive people. And then there's like one guy or two guys, and it's always about that thing. And sometimes it's like maybe good to have it, because you go, you know what, not everybody likes us. Like, you got to stay sharp. Like, you have to stay sharp. You got to really watch what you say and make sure that if you're speaking, from your own reality and your own truth and your own opinions, like, hey, you got to stand by them. You can't just flippantly say things. And that's a big thing that I've learned from 2020 to 2023 is, like, I don't care. I care what people think. And that's why I have to care and be careful with what I think and say, and also at the same time, I care more how the direction people live their lives and the journey. I want them to journey with us for a long time. So I can't be ignorant. I can't be divisive. I have to actually have an open mind to things and see the world uniquely.
It's a good thing to be a person with strong opinions.
Yeah.
To have convictions, to have positions, to have a perspective. You just always want to do that in a way where you treat the person who disagrees with you with a mutual respect, and you try to say things in a way that the intent is to win the other person over, not just to try to bowl them over.
Yeah,
I
agree.
Yeah. You were in London, and I even brought it up. All of a sudden I got swarmed with all these Google alerts because somebody was saying all these negative things, about me, and I looked at it and I thought, wow, how does this person know me? That's the weirdest thing in the world. Yeah. When you get a critique and you're like, I don't even know this person. And so I thought, I should just sort of do a little back search. And I go back and I realize, I think they know somebody who knows me. And I'm reading their critiques and I'm like, wow, this is like so painful. And I have my human side of me that goes, this is why I'm tapping out. I'm not gonna help people anymore.
What do you mean by tapping out?
Like, I don't want to be.
Why you're giving up?
Yeah, I don't want to do church. I don't want to do ministry. I don't want to do mosaic. Every time you're serving people, you just set yourself open for criticism, because the more good you try to do, the more people that you will feel you let them down. And then I look at it, and it's funny. Then the other voice goes inside of me, going, "Wow, this person must be a really broken, hurt person," because only really broken, hurt people go public and try to destroy other people. It isn't a healthy, normative expression of a healthy human being. And then the third part of me goes, you can't let your life be shaped by people who say negative things about you. You gotta be more bold and be more courageous and never allow negative voices to decide who you are, what you do, and where you're going. And so I go through the whole journey in just 15 minutes of time, and that to me is my personal reminder of going, if you want to elevate, if you want to live your life at the highest level, be comfortable in uncomfortable positions. And when you're in leadership, when you have influence, when you have a voice, you have to be ready to be misunderstood. You have to be ready to have your positions either distorted or disagreed with. And I'm sitting there going, wow, I am so grateful that I've gotten to live a life where there are people who disagree with me, and there are so many people who agree with me. There are people that clearly I haven't lived up to their expectations or hopes, but there's so many people we've helped and served. The one thing you have to know when you go to bed at night is that you're living the life you're supposed to live. And that you can look in the mirror and go, I'm doing this for the right motives. I have the right intention. And when the people around you, closest to you, when they respect you, when they know you, when they're with you, that to me is the best relational compass in life. And I think that's actually, by the way, what helps you become comfortable in uncomfortable positions. What happens with Mahomes is that his body is able to be highly flexible because his core is so strong. The key to leadership in the new world isn't rigidity, it's flexibility. It's the ability to adapt to change, the ability to move yourself in new environments. And the only way you can do that is if your core is so solid and so strong that the rest of your body is agile. When you have deep convictions, when you know who you are, when you know what you're about, you're able to be agile, flexible, adaptive, creative, and open with everything else in your life. And I think that's the powerful combination. Have a strong center and an adaptable spirit, and then you're ready for the new challenges of the world.
I love it. Let's wrap it.
All right.
Thank you. But a couple things. One,
I have
that's your new book here. It releases October 3rd. It is called Mind Shift. It doesn't take a genius to think like one. And it is here. I have the galley copy, so this is not what it's going to look like. It will be a hardcover book. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it at earlmcmanus.com, and you can check it out and pre-order. You can also go and sign up for The Arena, our new online community for all things leadership, communication, and character, which is an incredible space, and I'm very, very excited. We just did our first session. It's where we've kind of put everything from the art of communication, the 7 frequencies, all of our online masterclass content, and you get access to that when you subscribe to our online platform called The Arena. Go check it out. It just started. We're 1 week in. Our first session is already up, so you can watch every session that's previously recorded. And do we have anything else? Oh, we have a conference October 6th through 7th.
And if they want to register, they need to go to the website.
Yeah, earlmcmanus.com. And the website should be up by this Friday.
Oh, okay.
If not, sign up for the newsletter, and we'll be sending out a bunch of emails about it and getting everybody the information. And it's a quick turnaround, but we're very excited. You have a long list of incredible speakers. You can check it on the website when it's up. All right, thank you guys. We will see you next week.
All right, take care.
Thanks, Dad.